Well, welcome to My Life in Football. And again, I'm over the moon to say that we've got a superstar with us to my left. And we've actually got the man from sunny Spain and, of course, ex-Premier League referee Mark Halsey, of course, brother of the living legend, Mr. Paul Halsey, the manager at Ware as well. And
there's your first yellow card, David. Former FIFA and Premier League referee. So there's your first yellow card, pal.
There you go. But I mean, Mark, with it though, I mean, how did you first sort of, same questions we asked everybody really. I mean, how did you sort of not first get involved in refereeing, but how did you sort of first get involved in football in general?
Yeah, just going back to mentioning my brother, I taught him all he knows. Okay, at present, all right. So don't let him kid you, or don't let him tell you. It was me that taught him everything. Okay. Yeah. Listen. I remember starting back in those days. We started playing football in our junior school in our final year. So you were like nine or 10 years of age. And I remember playing my first game as centre midfield. I was absolutely useless. And he said the following week, Mark, I think we've got a vacancy for a goalkeeper. I'll put you in goal. And that's where I stayed. I played in goal. I loved it. And all through me high school and playing for me Sunday team as a Walnut Wanderers and the Hyde as a young lad. And obviously getting trials with Tottenham. So really enjoyed it. I think then obviously didn't make it at Tottenham. I sort of went a little bit wayward, as you do when because I was travelling, leaving school as a 13-year-old on a Tuesday and Thursday and getting the train up to White Hart Lane to do the training. So that's from Welwyn Garden City on your own, going up on the train, getting a bus from Finsbury Park Station to Tottenham. I always remember it, the 279 from Finsbury Park to Tottenham. Yeah, never forget that, all those journeys. And I suppose, growing up without a father, you didn't have that person to kick you up the backside. And I sort of drifted and went a little bit wayward, not wayward as in wayward, but couldn't be bothered to go training and couldn't be bothered to, put the hours in and have the dedication. And it was then when I got released as a schoolboy by Tottenham when I was 16. Went into non-league, playing obviously Hertford Town, St Albans City, Welwyn Garden City, Cambridge City.
So how does that affect a young man? I mean, I asked Gary this on our last show. I mean, but how does that affect somebody that, if you're, sort of, I suppose, physically, mentally, when you're there in that sort of surroundings of Spurs and all the rest of it, and then respects to those clubs, you're then dropping down to that sort of level.
Yeah, obviously, I was obviously disappointed, but you've got to, in them days you were left to your own devices, and I think. I was always sort of mentally tough, mentally strong, was always able to move on and not let things bother me or let things get to me. And I think that's what sort of helped me, later on in life in my refereeing career. But listen, I had many years playing non-league football, really enjoyed it, had a great time. And sort of obviously when I left there, went into refereeing, I enjoyed myself there as well.
So you're playing in those sort of teams, and like you've mentioned. But I mean, when it then came to refereeing, not many people make that sort of jump from playing football going into refereeing, especially to the standard that you got to yourself. But I mean, literally, what was the thinking behind it? Was it just retirement from football, or was you trying to do a little bit of Sunday morning stuff with the kids or something like that beforehand?
Yeah, no. Listen, I used to enjoy playing. I used to enjoy having banter with referees. Why playing, and I always used to like referees that allowed the game to flow and can laugh and smile with you. I always remember winning the Hearts Senior Cup, the Hearts Charity Cup with Welwyn Garden City and Graham Pole was the referee. I think when looking back, as a 16-year-old, I played in the Welwyn Hatfield Sunday League, and it was always tough because obviously. You played with players you played with players that you played with, and you played against them on a Sunday, so we all knew each other. And I was playing with a team called Wellingborough at the time. I was only 16, 17, and a good friend of mine, Russell Foster, sadly passed through COVID, a year or so ago, and I used to play behind him. He used to be our centre half, and I played in goals. And he was he was a poacher turned gamekeeper, because when the referee's back was turned, he used to kick players, used to punch players, used to headbutt players, and got away with it. And then I couldn't, my disbelief, he became a referee, and he became a good referee, and he got up to the Isthmian League level, where he got promoted as a referee there. But unfortunately, kept failing his fitness test, because he was quite big Russ and a big Chelsea fan. And I love me cricket. I really love me cricket, and I used to play for a team called Hatfield Hyde in the Hearts Selector Gaze competition, as it was then. And he's house backed onto our cricket field at King George V playing fields in Welwyn Garden City. And every time, I remember one summer, I think it was around about 1988, 89, he used to collar me, because we used to, when we were batting, we used to walk around the boundary as you do, and you put the welterites talking and having a laugh, and then we always used to get to because he's house backed onto our cricket pitch, and when I got there, he was always there waiting for me to try and to become a referee. Say, Mark, listen, why don't you become a referee? Come, you'll enjoy it. I said, Russell, I ain't got no interest whatsoever in becoming a referee. So stop keep getting at me for it, and just you got no chance of me becoming referees. Absolutely no. And he just kept on at me that summer, and I think it was in August September, I think it was the August time, and he collared me again, and I thought to myself, do you know what, I'm falling out of love with the game, and I was thinking about packing in and perhaps going into coaching, doing goalkeeping coaching, or even managing. And I thought about it, and I thought, do you know what? I think if I was going to put something back into the game, I'd take up refereeing. And I said to Russ, then you had to do an 8-week course, and then take the exam. And I just said, listen, I am not taking an 8-week course. I said, if I can read the laws of the game, take a test, take the exam, I'll do it. And he got permission, so I'd done that. Passed my exam. Read the laws of the game, passed my exam, and then I was a referee. So I was sort of refereeing on a Sunday, playing on a Saturday with Welwyn Garden City. But I really enjoyed it. I absolutely really enjoyed my first game. I always remember my first game at Welwyn playing fields against I think they played a team called Arctic Lights, and players knew me, but I just enjoyed it, and it went from there. So I had to decide as the time went on, am I going to be a referee, or am I going to be carry on playing football? And I decided, and then obviously I joined the Hearts County League as a referee in the reserve section, and lined an assistant referee on the Premier Division. And I went from there, and I sort of gave up playing Saturdays, to do refereeing. Never knew where it would take me. I never knew, how far I would go. But I was sort of still playing midweek for Welwyn Garden when they were short, and I was training with them. So. But then I had to decide, if I got cautioned or sent off or suspended playing football, then I would be suspended from refereeing as well. So I sort of knocked it on the head and started refereeing full time. Obviously at weekends, Saturday and Sundays.
But when you sort of playing and refereeing at the same time, did you then see the game in a different light when you were playing, or was you still playing it the same way that Mark played it before you started refereeing? Do you know what I mean? I still played the same way. I still had a bit of banter with referees. I'd always had banter with referees. I never ever got sent off. I think I got a caution 1 or 2 times for dissent. But other than that, I always had a good rapport with referees, always. And as I said before, I like the referees that allowed the game to flow and had that little banter with you. And I sort of when I sort of listen, I think because I played at, non-league is a good level. We've seen that in recent times, how well non-league clubs fare up against, league sides when they come up against each other in the FA Cups and things like that. So I sort of took that sort of. I would say I was a players referee. I was always a players referee, always. There was a stage in my career when I was refereeing on what it is now the National League. It was the conference when I was coming through, and
had to sort of adapt my game a little bit, because then all the way up through the county league, then when I refereed on the county Premier League, when I got into the Isthmian League, I wasn't really assessed. But when you got yourself into that, what it is now the National League, you're assessed every game, and they assess you properly because they are Football League, Premier League assessors, and people knew that I was an ex-player coming through, and I was sort of targeted to, you know, let's peg him down a two, let's peg him down a two, let's not give him top marks, let's peg him down. And you know, I had a couple of warnings on that level. I had a couple of letters from the Football League saying if I didn't sort out my performances and listen to what assessors were saying, I would be removed. But I think I changed a little bit, I suppose, to get me off the National League or conference it was then onto the Football League. But I never really changed.
Do you think that, you know, I mean, sort of away from your sort of career with it, but with the assessors, I mean, do you think, you know, I know a lot of people think that is the case. You've used to ask sort of 100 people what they thought, and there'd probably be 99 of them. But do you think that the referees actually do a game differently if there's an assessor sitting in the stand?
Yeah, I would say they do, but you shouldn't. You shouldn't forget about the assessor. I mean, we used a lot of us when we were on the Premier League, because you get your fixtures, and by the side of it, you have the assessor, who you know who your assessor's going to be, and you look at it and you think, oh my God, I've got him today, for God's sake. Why have I got him? You know, because you know what he's like. You know he doesn't like your style, because they sort of assess you the way they refereed. And to be fair, I just went out and refereed what was in front of me. I didn't worry about what the assessor said. You know, if he didn't like me, he didn't like me. Tough. But at the end of the day, as long as I come off that game with 22 handshakes, that was good enough for me.
So I mean, when you was actually in that though, you've now been sort of promoted into the conference. Can you remember what that sort of first game was when you was going in there? And was that sort of a bit more of a nervousness to you, because you're actually moving forward in that sort of step level, and you're going into sort of like, I suppose then it was probably semi-professional football into the conference.
Yeah. Listen, they were tough games. I always remember refereeing Dagenham, Redbridge, and Farnborough in a first round FA Cup tie. And it was tough. It's tough. It sorts the men out from the boys, and you know, it's exactly the same. Whatever level you referee, it's no different. You're refereeing the same players. You know them. They know you, and it's like, what can I say? I mean, look at the game last night. Man City, Atletico, and Man City last night. That challenge from, is it Felipe on Foden in the first half? Now, that was an ideal opportunity to stamp your authority on the game, and the referee missed it. He didn't take that opportunity. It was there. It presented him in his face. Bang! Nailed on caution. Nailed on. Listen, I'm all for managing games, managing the players, managing the event, but there are times where you just got to go bang, because players recognise weak referees. Okay, and that showed a weakness in the referee, I suppose, not recognising that challenge in its entirety, because that was a poor challenge. Had he got hold of Felipe then, things might not have escalated later on in the game. And that's no different to refereeing in, you know, my brother's teams in the Southern Central or lower that, or in the National League or the Football League, the Premier League. You have to take that opportunity to stamp your authority on the game. If you don't, you're in trouble.
I mean, with that, I mean, you jump into that conference. Can you remember sort of first game and any games you had in the conference?
Oh yeah. I remember a few games. I mean, I remember. I mean, I'm just trying to think. Do you know what? I'm trying to think of my first games in the conference, and I'm sure one of them was at Farnborough. It went okay, but there was. I remember one game at Farnborough. I think it was against Bath City, and I mean the assessor there. I got absolutely annihilated, because it was one of my first games, you know, coming up from the Isthmian League into the conference, and you know, I tried to referee it like I normally referee it, like I did in the Isthmian League, and it went okay. The game went well, but the assessor absolutely annihilated me for not doing this, not cautioning there, not cautioning that, not cautioning that. And I'm thinking, what's going on? What's going on about? What's this all about? But you know, you quickly realise that you're dealing with sort of assessors that are refereeing the professional game. and you sort of have to rethink the way you sort of referee. Perhaps, not letting so much go like I used to, and I think it was a good learning curve. But then when you leave the conference, National League, then you change your refereeing entirely when you get into the Football League. It's totally different. Totally different.
Do you have to change your style then? Do you think you have to change the way you?
You do. Yeah, back then you had to change your style. For me, you shouldn't have to change your style. It is what it is. You've either got your natural ability referees or you've got your manufactured referees. And I was always classed as a natural ability referee because I played the game doesn't mean to say that it would make me become a better referee. But for me, I feel that because I played the game, it helped me enormously. And then obviously later on, becoming professional, allowing me to train with Bolton Wanderers helped me enormously.
So I mean, from the conference, I mean, how many years did you stay in the conference before you got promoted?
First season, was it my first? Was it one? I think it was one season. I was 1996. I think one season. One season I was promoted. 1996, I was promoted to the Football League. And then obviously I was on the Football League line for one season, Premier League line for one season. And then my third season on the Football League, the national list, I should say, I was then promoted to the Premier League in 1999-2000 after refereeing the playoff final between Gillingham and Man City.
I was going to ask you about that one, but I mean, before we get to that, what was it like running the line then, in your first Premier League game? What was that like? I mean, do you remember who it was?
Do you know what? God, that's such a long time ago. Where did I go? I remember my first Football League line. It was Leyton Orient v Birmingham City. That was my first Football League line. My first Premier League line. Where was I? It might have been at Coventry. It may. Do you know what? I cannot remember my first Football League. I remember my first Football League game and my first Premier League game refereeing, but do you know what? It escapes me. My first Football League line, or my first Premier League line. But listen, I only spent 2 years on the line. I wasn't a good assistant referee. I think that's why they promoted me back then. My mind used to wander all over the place. I wasn't a very good assistant referee, I have to say.
I mean, with that then, I mean, do you remember you said your first game? You remember your first game as a ref in the Football League? I mean,
yes, that was it. That was my first ever game. Was Brighton Hove Albion at the old Goldstone ground against Chester City.
Oh, right, okay.
That was my first game, and I was almost late because the M25 was. Oh my God, M25 was absolute shocker. I refereed there the week before in a friendly, and it only took me about an hour and 45 minutes to get there. This time, it took me about 4 hours. I mean, I just got there on time. And I always remember me game there because just prior to kickoff, we're out there, called the captains. And next thing, I knew there was this naked man standing next to me. Just got hold of the ball and kicked it out of the stands. So that was welcome to the Football League.
What, your brother followed you, did he?
Yeah, right. Oh, dear.
But yeah, so I mean, with that though, I mean, how nervous were you going into that? I mean, I hear some refs say, "No, I weren't too bothered about it. I just turned up. You just got to try and blank it out, and it's a normal game." But I mean, there must have been some sort of nerves there, especially if it took you ages to get there as well. You'd be sitting in that car, nervous you're going to be late, nervous about the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anybody that says they're not nervous before they go out for a football match is absolutely talking nonsense. Because you've got to be nervous so you can perform. Any player would say they're nervous. Same with any referee. Before any game, I was nervous. Always nervous. Always visit the toilet 10 minutes before we go out, ring that bell. Always nervous until I blew that first whistle and got the game going. I was fine. Always had the nerves in my stomach because you want to do well. You want to come out of a game unscathed. You don't want to be the centre of attention. You want the game to be a great game and the game about the players and the fans. It's not about the referee.
So I mean, with that,
I mean, today, referees think they should command respect as soon as they walk out into that field of play. That's not the case. You have to earn that respect, whatever level you're at. You have to earn that respect to the way the way you manage the players, manage the game, speak to the players, your recognition of offences, your detection rate, your ability to recognise foul challenges, and your decision making. That's how you get the respect, and it takes time. And so for me, and having that awareness of what is going on around you. So I used to know. I mean, Mike, you talk to my assistants, and many assistants. So there's a chap who on Twitter, #1 liner. I don't know if you've seen him tweet. Glenn Turner. He assisted me many times. I used to give him earaches. I was always talking. Always, whether I was talking to the assistants or I was talking to the players, never stopped talking. I always knew what was going on, because you always got to have that awareness, like little niggles between 9 and 5, because it goes on. The 9 leaves a little bit on the 5, and you say, "Yeah, you've seen that. Cut that out. I've seen that. Cut it out." 5 gives him one back. Hey, that's 1 all now. No more, you two. Get on with it. And it's that bit of banter you have with all the players, and that football pitch is shop floor. That's the workplace, and shop floor language goes on the field of play, as you know, as you hear it watching, non-league games. That's life today.
At the actual sort of league level, did you keep your same assistants, or did you or were they different all the time?
No, you had different different assistants week in, week out. On the Premier League, when I was on, we had groups. So we had groups of 12. I think we used to, I used to be in a group with 12 assistants. Sometimes I'd keep the same assistants all the time. We used to have a chap called Andy Garrett as well. He was an excellent assistant referee. They got to know how I refereed, and they knew when they needed to come in and help me when not to come in. That was the art, when to come in, when not to come in.
I mean, you mentioned earlier on about probably one of the most amazing games of football of all time. The 1999 second division playoff final at Wembley. Was that your first visit to Wembley as a referee?
Yes, it was my first visit. Enormously proud. It's fantastic day. Really enjoyed the day. Fantastic game. Although the Gills fans still hate me for it. So any Gills fans listen, I apologise for that 5 minutes, but it is what it is. And the best night was, obviously the Football League put us in a hotel with where all the fans stayed. And that night the Man City fans were in our hotel, and they were all throwing things at me, celebrating. Oh, thanks for the 5 minutes, chucking coins at me. Thanks for the 5 minutes. And I say, Man City have got a lot to thank me for, because I put them back on the map. Without that victory, they would be where they are today. So there needs to be a statue outside the Etihad of me, not Aguero.
Talk us through that day, though. From your eyes. From for them getting there to to what happened and so forth. Talk us through it.
Listen, people said to me, you have to savour it, savour the day, because it goes so quick, and it does. And I remember walking up. I was fortunate enough to referee at the old Wembley and the new Wembley, and walking up. The old Wembley, the dressing room for referees was awful. You couldn't swing a cat. It wasn't even enough room for 2 of you, let alone 4 of you. But walking up that tunnel and out, and 80,000 fans deafening, it's just like makes the hairs on the back of your neck just stand up. It was fantastic. It was a fantastic game, fantastic day, and it just went so quick. And I always remember, what was his name, the keeper, the Man City goalkeeper, going, making those saves, the penalty saves, and then him going on that run, and the Pulis and the Gillingham players chasing me down the tunnel. But no, it was good, and it was funny, because all those years after, with refereeing Tony Pulis's teams at Stoke City, we always used to talk about that day. And no, it was brilliant. It was fantastic day for my assistants and the families, my families, and it was something you can never forget, because I always remember 2001. I think the Etihad Stadium was opened, and they asked me to referee the first game there against Barcelona, which was good, so I enjoyed it. And we've always had a good rapport ever since, me and City fans.
But I mean, with that though, I mean, is that in a game that sort of goes on like that one did? Is it very difficult for a referee to not get involved in that? If you know what I'm trying to say, the sort of like the excitement, the whole sort of atmosphere that goes around a game like that, where the team comes back, and was that difficult?
Listen, I think you've got to be mentally tough. You've got to be mentally strong, and once you cross that white line, you're a referee, and you just referee what's in front of you, and you forget about everything else, because you're refereeing that football match for 90 minutes, and you just referee what's in front of you. And that's the way I went through all my games.
But that game must have been, sort of adrenaline must have been pumping. Chronic.
Absolutely, of course it is. The adrenaline pumps. You're very nervous, and the adrenaline's still going. Hours after the game. Because every game you do, you're always thinking about that. You're replaying things in your mind, incidents that happened during a game in your mind, and playing them back and thinking, "Oh, did I do the right thing? Oh, should I have done this? Should I have done that?" So, even though the 90 minutes is up, you're always still thinking about that game.
So from that sort of game, I mean, it says here, of course, as well, in the same sort of season, he was promoted to the Premier League referee, and your first game was Wimbledon against Coventry.
That's right, at Selhurst Park. Always remember that 1-1. Very nervous. Again, very nervous. Great. Come out of that unscathed. It went well for me. I remember my fourth official was Graham Pole. A little bit that can be a bit overpowering when you've got someone like that, and your first game you've got him. Because he was a sort of a star of the Premier League then, wasn't he? So, but no, the game it was good. The game went well for me, and really enjoyed it. And that was I suppose the first of many in the Premier League.
So what was that like when you get told that you're now going to start refereeing in the Premier League? I mean, that must be like, somebody else being told they're going to go and play for England and stuff like that. I mean,
I mean, you're right, and it's just I never thought that when I started out refereeing that you would get to that level. But I always said to myself, if I didn't progress, then I wouldn't carry on refereeing. I'd just go back to doing whatever I was doing, playing or go back into coaching. But to say it worked for me, and I always remember getting that phone call from Philip Don then. He was in charge of us, to say that you'd been promoted to the Premier League. It was mind blowing. It was just, the emotions were so high.
I mean, that season, highs and lows of that first season.
I don't suppose I had any lows really. I was always on a high. I think the season went relatively well for me. I didn't have any sort of major incidents that you could say I've got wrong. So yeah, I guess it went well for me.
With a Premier League referee, do you try to ignore social media? Do you try to ignore papers and TV and stuff like that when you make a mistake, or or they think you've made a mistake, should I say, because they don't understand the rules? Do you actually then start getting a bit, tetchy with it when you start seeing these sort of things?
Yeah, listen, back then, I'm obviously social media. I mean, things like Twitter and that. I don't think we're there when we first started. We become professional in 2001. But you're right, because you don't watch Sky Sports News. That was about then. You don't watch Sky Sports News. You don't read the newspapers, because it could dent your confidence. Because remember, whatever you do, whatever you are in any walk of life, it's all about confidence. And if you don't have that confidence, whatever you're doing, then you're not going to perform. And so if you did read damning articles about yourself or about your performance in the newspaper, or listen to the media, what's on TV, then it could dent your confidence.
I mean, with that, I mean, the following season, you get added to the FIFA list, and I mean, then again, now all of a sudden we're sort of you must be thinking to yourself, hang on a minute. A few years ago, I was playing football for Welling Garden City. Now I'm on the FIFA list and going, and going to all different countries. But I mean, can you remember your first sort of FIFA appointment?
Yeah, I went to where did I go? I think I went to my first. I mean, I was full official many times, but my first real appointment, I think, was to the Toulon tournament in France, where I spent, I think, 3 or 4 weeks in Toulon doing I think it's the under-21 tournament, and that was a great experience. Really good experience. Met some other referees from around the world, and obviously you speak about their leagues and what they do, and you watch other referees in games, and yeah, when I was promoted to the FIFA referee, I mean, you're then one of the top officials in your country, and that was pleasing.
Who was your idol though, refereeing wise? Was it somebody that you looked up to?
Nah, I didn't have an idol. I didn't have an idol. So I was asked that question in my football league interview, to get onto the referees list, and I just made one up. I've just made up some cock and bull story about how I like David Ellery, and I thought he was great, and the reasons why. And when I was saying that, I was thinking to myself, oh, what a load of old bull you're saying here. But it got me promoted. But no, listen, I never looked at any referee. I just went out and refereed my way, in the way that I wanted to referee.
What was it like going to, according to you, in 2000, you went to Japan?
God, yeah, I went to Japan. That was good. I was in China as well. I went to China, refereed in the out there in the Beijing Games. I always remember the food. I remember going out. The food was, oh Jesus, the food was abysmal. Food was it was awful. Honestly, it's not like the Chinese we know it. But I know it's different there now. But I had to get my wife to send me some food packages out of chocolate. Sent me a couple of boxes. Only one arrived. They must have nicked the other box. But no, it was a great, learning the culture. Out in China and Japan, as I say. You're with other referees, and it was really good to be out there.
I mean, do you remember sort of like, I mean, with that though, I mean, was it different with the culture? Did refereeing in sort of like Japan and in that sort of culture? Are they used to being refereed a different way over there?
Yeah. I mean, I think you are. I mean, if you look at the way that European teams and referees referee European way. There's a European way, and there's when refereeing in the Premier League is totally different to refereeing in Europe and the continent, because it's you see it now. Someone raises their foot or goes to block a tackle, and the free kick's given. You don't get that. You don't get that in England, and sometimes you give free kicks, soft free kicks, what they call diva soft free kicks, to keep the peace. Because if you don't, you could lose control. So it's easier to give a cheap free kick than perhaps risk control of the game. So yeah, there is a difference between refereeing in the English game and refereeing abroad, most definitely. I mean, and you have to make that change when you do go and referee abroad.
I mean, you came back and fourth official to Mike Riley in the Millennium Stadium for the cup final between Arsenal and Chelsea, the Ray Parlour final. I think I'd always.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah. Great achievement. Great. It's lovely to be appointed fourth official to that. And that again, you go down on a Friday and you travel back on the Sunday. So that was good. Good weekend. Very good weekend.
I mean, what's it like being the fourth official though, compared to sort of Lino stroke referees? That sort of
I used to hate it.
Yeah.
I used to hate it. Yeah, but you had to do it. You had to do it. I'd rather be out there refereeing than standing there. But again, you're doing a job for the referee. You got to support the referee. And although I used to hate it, I used to enjoy the banter I used to have with the managers. I always remember. I'm not going to say the referee. I always remember refereeing a game. I was full official at Wigan versus Stoke, Stoke v Wigan at Britannia. And Britannia was one of the most hostile grounds to officiate at, along with Goodison Park. And it was the what's his name? Graham Jones, who's now I think assistant at Newcastle, and Tony Pulis come up. The game was going on, and they both come up to me, in the way, and they went, "How the is he a Premier League referee? How is he refereeing this game and you're standing here?" I just looked at him. I just went, I couldn't say anything, and you think, well, the referee at the time wasn't having one of the best of his games, but that happens. That happens. You got to realise that you look at all the top players around the world; they're not at their best every game, and that happens. And that's no different to referees.
I mean, do you stand there sometimes thinking, "What am I doing standing? I should be out there reffing the game." Though, I mean,
it's Parler's course, and you have to accept it. And I think many referees would say they'd rather be on the field of play than standing on the sidelines being full official. I think that's everybody says the same thing. I used to love refereeing, and I used to love the banter. And do I miss it? Of course, I miss it. I had 20 years of refereeing at the highest level. Some people say to me now, "Why are you not involved? Why are you not involved now?" So I'd love to be involved now. I'd love to. I think I've got so much to offer referees, young referees at all levels, and referees at the top level. But people know why. People know the reasons why that I'm not working within the PGMO at present, because I'm not a yes man.
How can I put this? Somebody asked me to describe you the other day, and I think I turned around and said probably the Brian Clough of refereeing. Would that be fair enough to say?
Well, I suppose, yeah. Listen, it is what it is, isn't it? You got to say it as it is. You've got to, you're never going to learn. You're never going to learn. Listen, I used to get pilloried from assessors in the dressing room after the game if I made a mistake. As long as you say it in a way that you put a positive slant on it. You're not always being negative. It's
difficult, isn't it? Because you've got somebody like yourself who, and we've had this conversation before between me and you, that, for me, you should be the main man in the refereeing circles in this country. But, there is no ifs, buts or maybes. It should be you. And like, it's difficult because, as you said, because you're not that yes man, they're not then going to turn around and come to you and offer you the job, which they should have done some time ago. Do you know what I mean? So that must be difficult, and especially for yourself as well.
Yeah, listen, look, I mean, people say, there's a lot of people saying now it's the worst set of officials in the Premier League, in the Football League that we've ever seen. And you would say you could perhaps go along with that, but I would say that it's not the referees. We've got some excellent young referees coming through. Michael Oliver's without doubt our best referee. Anthony Taylor's a good referee. Got the experience of Martin Atkinson, Andre Mariner. Obviously, love or hate him, Mike Dean. I always thought he was an excellent referee, Mike. I know a lot of the fans don't like him. And when I look at it, you look at the coaching setup of the PGML, and it's not what it should be. We haven't got our best coaches. We've got so many good ex-referees not involved in the game at professional level where we should. And I use the adage, the old saying that good football coaches turn average players into good players into excellent players, and that is no different to referees. And we've got a severe lack of quality coaching and leadership and direction from management. And the referee's dressing room is no different to a player's dressing room. Some players need a kick up the backside, some players need an arm round them and a bit of loving. And that's not, and unfortunately, because I've been in that dressing room, unfortunately for me, the president management haven't got that in their locker. Why do I say that? Because I've been there and I know that. And it's all about managing men in that dressing room, and they haven't got that ability to do that.
Yep, definitely, 100%. But back to you. In 2004, friendly match between Belgium and France. That must have been a highlight.
Yes, it was. I mean, it was great. Oh yeah, listen, very good game. Enjoyed it immensely. Remember, we went on the Eurostar all the way through. It was at the Heysel. And I always remember Zinedine Zidane was playing in that game. What a player! What a player! Unbelievable. The ability, the time and space he made for himself was just unbelievable. You know, Patrick Vieira was playing, William Gallas was playing. They're all playing in that game. I had a good rapport with Patrick Vieira. Always had a good battle with him, verbal battles with him on the field of play. And it's good to see him doing well at Crystal Palace. You know, he's a good man. He was a good man on the field, although we had our differences. But you know, you have those on the field of play. But when the final whistle goes, you shake hands, smile, and you walk off.
Is that difficult as well? I mean, it wasn't difficult for Mike Dean, but it might be difficult for you. That, you know, when you saw sort of decent goals or whatever else, that you wanted to celebrate, or you wanted to sort of go wow or shake the guy's hand when you saw it.
Well, I always went up to the player when I thought was a wow, you know, goal. I always remember Alan Shearer's goal, 25-30 yarder against Everton. You know, the goal that he scored from 25 yards in the top corner. And I was right behind that. As soon as sometimes I went through a game saying, it's it, you know, to players. And I remember being right behind that. And as soon as that left his boot, I went, that's a goal, that's in. And it went straight in the back of there. And I always remember going up to him and shaking his hand. And I don't see anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, because we're all part of the same family, the football family. You know, it's not them and us. You know, we've got to get closer together instead of drawing ourselves apart. And that's the problem. We're all one family.
2000
and no one should never ever question a referee's integrity. You know, I heard Thomas Tuchel having a go about the referee on Tuesday, smiling with Carlo Ancelotti. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that. You know, you see often on the Premier League, you know, players coming onto the pitch, going onto the pitch, shaking their hands, having a laugh and a smile with the referee. The managers come on. Sometimes they're having a right go at the referee, and then they're shaking their hands. And they're most probably just, you know, said something funny or said something about a decision, and the referee just laughs it off, smart, you know, being present. You know, when I was refereeing, you know, referee, you never saw them. The managers never come onto the pitch, and I think that should, and I just think that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't come on. That managers should not be coming onto the field of play and then going straight to the referee, because 9 times out of 10 they're coming to say something to the referee. I always used to say, if you've got a problem with me or my officials, my assistants, do not come to me at the end of the game on the field of play. If you've got a problem with me, you come and see in my dressing room after the game. And then whatever goes on in that dressing room stays in that dressing room. And there were times when managers come in the dressing room, we had agreed to disagree. We used to have a couple of, you know, a few slangy matches, you know, but it stayed in my dressing room, never went any further.
2007 Community Shield between United and Chelsea. With Chelsea winning 3-0 on penalties. Was that another great day to go to Wembley again? Was that the new Wembley by then?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, didn't I do the cup final before that?
Oh, sorry, you may have done. It's not on my list. So the cup final. I mean,
what do you mean it's not on your list? That was my red card. That's the second yellow red card. Right, it's time to go. See you, mate. Take care.
You need to go on the Wikipedia and make sure that's put in, because it's not on there.
Well, it should be on there, mate. Jesus, yeah. I mean, I'm sure I've done the Carling Cup final, Tottenham Chelsea before that.
That's 2008, according to this.
Okay, I thought I refereed the Carling Cup final, and then the Community Shield. That's after that.
August.
I may be wrong.
Yeah, it says August 2007 FA Cup Community Shield between Man United and Chelsea, and then it says August 28 Tottenham v Chelsea.
Oh right, okay. I thought it was the other way around, but there you go. See.
So FA Cup then. I mean,
VAR needed. VAR needed.
The FA Cup final. I mean, what year was the FA Cup final?
You mean the Carling Cup final?
Yeah.
That was. I thought that was 2007. Personally, the Tottenham Arsenal game. Tottenham Chelsea game where Tottenham won 2-1 after extra time. That was, yeah. Listen, same again. I mean, you know, both games at the new Wembley, it was fantastic, and much bigger dressing rooms, I have to say, for the referees at the new Wembley. Massive. You can get a whole team in there. yes, again, it just went so quickly. It just flew by just like that, and everything went well in both games. I always remember, you know, extra time, you know, sort of blowing out my backside down that pitch. But listen, great final, 2-1 to Tottenham. No complaints, no one, you know, nothing. We come out of the game unscathed, and everybody was happy, and that's all you want when you referee in a big final. Every game's a big game. It didn't bother me whether I refereed in the Premier League, Championship, League One, or League Two. Every team deserves, top referee at every game. And I always remember, you know, when I was refereeing League One or League Two games, they could always be potential banana skins, and they know that you're a Premier League referee, and I suppose they expect better. So I was always hoping that I never got them singing Premier League, you're having a laugh. So you know, you never wanted that at League One or League Two. But no, it was, I enjoyed every game I refereed, every game.
I mean, did you get the honour of the FA Cup final?
No, I didn't actually, and there's reasons for that. I'm not going to go into, as you can gather. So listen, it is what it is, and that doesn't bother me. The main thing for me is that I had the respect, and I had the respect of players, managers, and fans from around the country. I always remember the second game at Wembley, the Man United Chelsea. Was it Man United Chelsea, the Community Shield? Yeah. I always remember cautioning Wayne Rooney for a challenge, and he came up to me and said, "Oh, that's never a caution. That's never a caution." I said, "Wayne, don't worry." I said, "It doesn't count. It's just counts for today." He went, "Is that right?" I went, "Yeah, no problem. Yeah, you're okay." So, okay, I'll accept it then. Because when you get cautioned in them games, it doesn't carry through for the league season.
So what for you? Old Wembley or New Wembley? Which was your favourite?
I don't know. I have to say I was very disappointed to say that that Wembley was changing, because the Twin Towers that you had, everybody associated Wembley with them, didn't they? And I suppose times move on. While it was great that the old Wembley refereeing at that, then going to the new Wembley, I suppose the new Wembley now, isn't it? With the facilities and everything that's there for the fans. So yeah, I suppose you've got to say the new Wembley is a fantastic stadium, and it's everybody's dream, everybody referee's dream to referee there. And I was lucky enough to go there 3 times because I refereed the Wembley Cup there, Tottenham Barcelona as well. So I was very, very lucky to.
For me though, I think the biggest disappointment with the new Wembley, it feels smaller than the old Wembley. It just.
I can assure you it ain't. I can assure you the pitch ain't. The pitch ain't, I tell you.
But the other thing with it as well, the other disappointment is that that whole sort of ambience of them walking sort of almost half a mile to get to the pitch and then getting onto the pitch. That's sort of like in razzmatazz. You know what I mean? And you just almost like out of a couple of cupboard doors, and you just walk onto the pitch. It's just like it doesn't feel the same.
Well, I don't know. That's the build-up, isn't it? I listen. It's not that far. It's not that far coming out of dressing rooms onto the field. It ain't that far. Listen, I can assure you, especially when you're nervous as hell when you're walking out.
So, I mean, 2009. There was some medical issues. We won't go into them.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring all that up, but
it's not a problem.
Which 2009, there was some family medical issues for yourself and for your lady wife as well. And then you sort of came back in 2010. And you passed your fitness test, and it says your first game back was Leicester City reserves versus Scunthorpe United reserves.
That's right, yeah.
First of all, did you think you was going to get back? And secondly, how was that when you did finally get back?
There was a time when I thought I wouldn't get back. I always remember my specialist, Tim Millage, said I would never referee again. And there was a time when I felt under pressure to come back, because I felt under pressure when I was talking about man management and managing the dressing room and managing you. I didn't feel that I was managed correctly when I was battling cancer, and I'll leave that there. When I was trying to get back, training hard, doing my fitness tests, kept failing my fitness tests. I know there was a time when I never thought I'd get back, I have to say. And after a private phone call with my specialist, and he told me, listen, you're coming back far too early. The chemotherapy would have damaged all your organs. And I remember failing a fitness test, just driving home. I didn't talk to anybody, except me Professor Tim Illich. And then when I got home, I didn't even speak to my wife. I couldn't speak to my wife. And I think someone had rang her and told her. And then I think I got home and she booked a trip to Lanzarote. And that helped me out to the sun. And I got a training program from Bolton Wanderers to do out there, because the sports scientist at the Peterborough was told not to give me a training program because it could be, if something went wrong with me, they could be liable, which I found unbelievable. But listen, that's neither here or there. So I found it was very, very, very difficult. I found it extremely difficult to get back to my fitness, but I got there eventually. Got there eventually with the help and love from the family and people in football, especially people at Bolton Wanderers.
And I mean, first game back in the Premier League, Wigan and Blackpool.
Yeah, I remember my last game. I remember my last game, Everton Arsenal, when I was diagnosed the day before, and how I got through that game, I never ever know. And then on the Monday, I was in having the operation, and then on the Friday, the tumour had grown back, and so all hell had broken loose. But that game, people ask me about my best ever game, my favourite game. Listen, I've refereed many big games, as you know. They're just football matches to me. People class them as big games, but they're just football matches to me. But that game, Wigan Blackpool, my first game back in the Premier League, and listen, it was great to get back into the reserve section of the Football League. My first Football League game back was I think it was at Rotherham. I think it was Rotherham, Port Vale. Port Vale, yeah. And I always remember the letter that Ronnie Moore left in my dressing room. I would never forget that. And also the reception I got walking out at Wigan Blackpool. And if people say to me, what was your best ever game? I always say Wigan Blackpool was my favourite, because I shouldn't have been there doing that game.
No, definitely. What about, so I mean, from there, of course, you had, another sort of couple of seasons, sort of, I suppose, one of the maybe dark times as well, footballing wise, in 2012 with the Liverpool Manchester United game, etc. But I mean, you got onto that season and sort of announced your sort of retirement 2012, 2013. Was that really hard then to actually give up something that you'd fought for?
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of issues surrounding that. I think I've touched on it about managing the dressing room, and I think also I'd sort of worked my socks off to get back to fitness, and I think I was realizing that my body couldn't carry on with the training regime, because I just felt that my body was just packing up. And I was refereeing games, and towards the end of the season, and thinking, do you know what? I don't want to go out there. I don't want to be out there anymore. And I thought, and once I started feeling that, and I thought that was the time to walk away. I think had Keith Hackett still been in charge, I think it would have been totally different, because I think I would have been managed differently and better. But yeah, listen, I mean, I think I was 53, and I suppose as well, the game's getting quicker and quicker and quicker. I think if VAR was in place when I was refereeing, I think I still would referee, because they could have backed me up and not my rubbish decisions. But I think you look at Mike Dean now. He's 53. I was 53, and it does come to you. 53 years of age, refereeing in the best league in the world, and it does take its toll on you. It does take its toll on your body, and I think my body had taken its toll.
And as we spoke about right at the very beginning, you being such a sort of a legend for Manchester City fans. Nice way to finish though. Manchester City against Norwich as your last game.
Yeah, it was. I got a great reception. Whenever I went there, and I say, I sort of as Man City and Everton fans. I mean, I remember making one of me pre-season comeback. Everton invited me to referee Everton versus Everton Chile, and the reception I got from the 28,000 fans that night was just unbelievable. And I remember my daughter being a toffee girl. She was dressed up as a toffee girl. My wife was walking around with her, throwing toffees into the crowd. You know, they absolutely loved it, and the ovation I got from Evertonians was fantastic. And if I look at Everton, you know, the People's Club, they're a fantastic football club that care about everybody, and that I've always held them close to me, and I had a great rapport with Everton fans as well as you know Man City, obviously, and the reception I got from their fans that day was very emotional, as I did at Goodison Park that night. It was very emotional. Yeah, I remember that one, that the Norwich, the Man City Norwich, because I think Norwich won that game, and they were all shouting for another 5 minutes so they could get another goal. So I couldn't carry on playing too long because you wouldn't have been very happy with me. But I remember that was good. I went into the dressing room, Norwich, and they chucked me in the shower. But no, it was good. It was I had a fantastic career, and I made many friends over the years at the different football clubs.
So, last question for you, sir. Up and coming referees, there's loads of them around the country. Some of them you see, you know, through social media having tough times and stuff like that.
It's not what my brother says.
I mean, what words of advice would you have for a young referee coming up through the Saturday and Sunday leagues, and you know maybe some of the younger ones, that are coming up through the system as well at the moment? What sort of bit of knowledge would you give them to take forward?
Just go out and enjoy it and smile and referee your way, and choose someone that you really trust, that you can speak to about your performances and go over your performances, and don't ask too many people regarding issues surrounding your game and issues you have with refereeing. Just choose one person to go through your career. But the main thing is to go out, enjoy it, and smile, and referee your way.
Listen, Mark, it's been absolutely phenomenal. I love speaking to you. You're a fantastic man. Thank you for giving up your time. Really, really appreciate it. I'll let you get back to the beach. And
There's been no beach today, pal.
And listen, hopefully, people in the higher positions in this country will see sense, and eventually we will see Mr. Mark Halsey in charge of freezing this country.
I've got more chance of winning the Euro Millions. But I wouldn't say no.
Thanks, mate. Massive thank you to you, and I really, really am. And let's just hope that you're celebrating again in the next few months as well, when your brother gets promotion into this.
Yeah, listen, it'd be great. I hope he does, because he deserves it. To be fair, Paul, he's worked hard at football clubs when he was at Billericay, and he didn't have the rubber green at Hertford Town, and it's nice to see that where they're giving him that chance, given the chance, given the wage structure, he could bring success to Wales, no doubt about that. And I'm really pleased for him, and I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, magic. Thanks, mate. And from me, we've another fantastic interview today, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. And we'll be back with a couple more. Liam O'Neill is our next guest, and also, of course, as well, we've got Nick Ironton as well going to come on as well in the coming weeks. But for me and for Mark, thank you for watching. Good night.